music industry, there is kind of this subculture in how people talk in the studio, and you hear different terms that you may not be used to in other circles. You'll hear things like cans or take or punch in or gliss or flam or pads. And part of working with musicians and working with mixing engineers is to learn kind of the lingo that goes on. To give you an example, I'll read some of those for you and tell you what they mean. So like cans is kind of studio talk for headphones. And so, you know, when Clark will say, hey, the cans are over there, you know, he's talking about headphones. Verb is a short term for reverb. So when you are editing say a guitar or a voice, and it's just a dry voice, you want it to have a nice echo to it, you put reverb on it, or verb. Take. So when we're in the studio and we're recording, let's say I'm recording a section of my voice and I sing a phrase of notes and I screw it up. Well, that's a take. So then after that, we're going to do take 2 and take 3 and take 4 and another take. So that term's used in video as well as audio, music recording, or even commentary, or whatever type of recording and editing. Take is another term. Punch in. So like say you have a guitar solo and you did a little solo piece for the section and you missed a note. Well, then what we're going to do is we're just going to punch in. You know, he'll press record and I'll play that note that I missed, and then we'll put it into the mix. So we do that with voices, you do that with drums, you do that with guitars, everything. So punch in. dB, I already explained earlier, is a term for decibels. So that has to do with volume levels. More dB, less dB, you know, increase the volume, decrease the volume, etc. Gliss is a term that we use for if someone's singing and they sing a note and then they slide up to the next note, that sliding up like is called a gliss. Flam is for like drums. If you have like the snare drum and you got a drummer and he hits the drum with both sticks and it kind of makes a sound as opposed to one stick, pop. Well, the 2 sticks is called a flam. And that's what that means. Pads. And this will be the last one I'll tell you about right now. So pads is what we refer to when we're talking about keyboard programs. So say you have a keyboard program that produces a choral voice sound, then that is a keyboard pad. It's a choral voice keyboard pad. Then maybe you move to the next program and it's a sound of symphony strings, so you have a string pad. So whatever program you're using, whatever sound you're making with that keyboard is a keyboard pad. So when we label them in the editing sessions, we'll have like string pads, voice pad, flute pad, etc. So there's some of the terminology that you've been hearing throughout this series and you'll continue to hear, and so there's some of the more common ones that you may hear, and now you'll know what it means. So let's get back to the video. One more term to mention is the term bounce. So basically, say you have a song that has 10 tracks, guitar, drums, bass guitar, keyboards, etc. We take all those edits from all those tracks and mix them into what we call a bounce, condensing it into the stereo MP3 file so that you can listen to it.
Oh no, you won't see the counter during the bounce. We have to.
Okay, well, I'll just take notes anyway.
Yeah, gotta levels seem a little not really dialed in as much as I thought they were. So oh well.
On the horn?
on the well, it seems like at first I thought it was the lead guitar was too loud when it comes in, but then when all the pads come in, it's fine. So maybe it's that the rhythm guitar isn't loud enough at first, and then should come back. I don't know. There's a couple things we can try. But it does seem you've got these spaces that are huge, these huge pads going on. And then you've got these very smaller spaces that are more like just two guitars, But we don't want it to go disappear. Right there.
We'll get back to it.
Oh, keep the intimacy too.
Yeah.
Without losing the beauty of having, just the guitar for a minute. It's nice. It's sweet. So yeah, we'll get that dialed.
All right, break time.
All right.
It sounds like having it there in his mind is a lot of the process.
That's a huge part of the process, and it's a little bit unique. I've worked with a lot of people who really come into the studio, with kind of an idea of what they want to do, and a lot of times by the time the project is done, it's really not what they conceived it would be in the first place, and there are a lot of surprises along the way. And sometimes sometimes it's better, sometimes it's not.
It all depends.
Jeremie's happiest when what comes out is what he expects, and that's a little unique. I think that's a little unique.
Clark brings up an interesting subject about, he says, I'm happiest when what I hear is what I expect to hear. And the reason that is because for me, and I'm not talking about other musicians, so however you approach music, God bless you. This is just about me and how it is for me. I feel God gives me this music, and I'll hear phrases in my head. I'll hear voices singing. So no, I don't need medication. I'm not hearing voices in my head. It's not like that. I hear music. And when I hear these things, for me, it is, I believe, a download from God where He gave me something. And for years, I will hear these tunes and develop these tunes in my mind. And so when I'm recording, what I'm attempting to do is, to give an analogy, it's like communication, where you communicate something and your hope is the other person understands what you're trying to communicate. And so it's like that. I'm trying to communicate to the world in a way that they can hear and understand what I have always been hearing in my mind and in my heart and in my spirit, and basically what God gave me to share. And so for me, it's very important that I bring these musical experiences as close as I possibly can to the experience God gave me in the first place. And then I communicate it to you, and hopefully it's translated to where you understand that. And I know, because when I hear the recording and it sounds like what I've always heard and what I've always felt, that's when I know we've nailed it. And that's when I know I've finished a piece. So let's get back to it.
From my knowing him, you'd say probably what you hear is probably what has been going on in his head for a while?
It's probably a pretty good guess. I mean, I think he goes through the development process like anybody does. I actually haven't seen that part of it. I haven't seen him actually work a tune up. They're pretty finished when they come in. So I'm sure there's a sort of a carving and sculpting facet to what he does. It's just that he's already done that before he gets here. And some people, not everybody does that. Wait until they get in the studio and then see how it all fits together. He fits it together first. So
sounds like there's an anointing on this and on the music. What's the vision God's given you to go, and what to do with this gift and this talent with your music?
Yeah, no, that's a good question too. I don't have 10 albums stored up in the back of my head. As I was
finishing the Christmas CD, I was starting to formulate concepts about this new CD, and I felt like it was God just kind of downloading some things to me. And it seems like He gives me what I can handle at the time. And as I go, He adds more. My prayer is that that just continues. My hope is that I can continue to do this kind of work until I leave this earth, and make as much music as I possibly can. And I'm not so interested on performing live, although I do perform live with the worship team at my church right now, and I enjoy that and being in the atmosphere of worship. But in the traditional sense, I'm not necessarily all gunning for performing live. My heart is, how much music can I create, and how much of a difference can I make with the talents that God's given me, and how can I capture that so that when I do leave this earth, that I can leave that behind and it can be enjoyed for generations to come. Like the Tchaikovskys or the Beethovens. Not that I'm even in that league, I'm not saying that, but they are remembered, and their music has still been able to affect people all these years later. Some of the great hymns from way long time ago. It is well with my soul. How great thou art. Things like that. I would like some aspect of my music to be remembered and to carry on like that. So that's why I work so hard on creating these musical experiences that are not just a performance that comes and it's gone, but it's captured and you can enjoy it over and over and over, and you can pass it on to your kids and your grandkids and so on.
So I just want to mention why I feel in my situation it is a choice between performing music and creating music. Both take a huge amount of time and resources. And because I have my own business and I pay my own bills, and like everybody else, and I pay for all the studio time and I fund these projects, I kind of have to choose between one or the other, because these music projects, these albums, take pretty much every bit of spare time I have to accomplish. And even then, at best, I only been able to pop one out every 5 years. This last one was in 2010, and now it's 2022 as I'm recording this. So it's been 12 years since I recorded the last one, and a lot of life happened in between. But if I have to choose between performing and creating, I would rather create. Because when I create this music and I capture this music, it continues to go on, and it's saved, it's captured. It takes no more time or effort to just pop it into your stereo and push play. And so that's kind of what goes on there. If I was a full-time musician and this was all I did, then maybe I could do more performing. But for right now, I have been in this situation most of my life where I kind of had to choose one or the other, and so I choose to create. So
Would you recommend this music to any people or friends that you knew? And if so, how would you categorize or describe it?
I pretty much only to people with $12.95 on a CD player, or what? I don't know how much he's going to charge. Maybe did I just overcharge for your record, Jeremy, or undercharge?
you just gotta love Clark and his way of looking at things. Very lighthearted and very funny, and I just enjoy the guy so much. And so let me just give you a quick recap of some of our funny antics together. Now we're going to go through briefly a quick recap on some of the funny moments that Clark and I have had together as we were making the A Light in the Storm album. And the first prank that I want to talk about, that funny moment with Jim, the drummer, my friend from childhood. That was a wonderful abuse of creativity and engineering by Clark and I. We first had to plan it out, and then of course once we made the plan, then he had to take care of the audio by recording it off of my device, and together we arranged it in a particular order so that everything fit into the mix, so that it would be a complete surprise but right on time with what Jim was trying to play. And of course I handled the video, and once it was all together, then I edited it together. And so what makes this such a successful prank isn't just the fact that Jim's a great sport and we got a great sense of humor, but there was actually some scripting and planning that had to take place to make something like that work. So I'll just show you just a little bit of that. Alright, so what should we do?
Oh, we could put in a tempo change right after. That counted.
A tempo change?
So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Enough, it'll really work.
Let's mess with him a little bit. Okay. So first we gotta plug this in.
Yeah, let's try this. Doesn't matter if these are in stereo, does it?
No. He just has to be able to hear it.
Let's see. Is it appearing here? You hear it?
Yeah.
It's quiet. Alright, you want me to start it rolling and you put in your
Yeah.
whatever you want?
Rolling?
Yep.
I'll just pick a few here. All done. Alright, let's just pack all those things together and
Just out of the way.
probably only thing is place the vomit before the toilet flush. That'd be good.
That makes sense.
Okay, so once we got it planned out and we got it recorded and edited, then the next step is to get Jim in the session and have no awareness of what is going on. So everything's set up and all we have to do is press play. But as a producer, you have to keep everything in mind. If I'm going to show this to you, then you have to be able to hear it. So it's not enough just to have it in the mix playing for Jim over his headphones while we're in the mixing booth and you can't hear anything. So we had to make sure that Clark had both the sound going out to Jim and the sound playing over the speakers inside the mixing booth so that we could hear it, so that it would be recorded on the camera, so that Jim's hearing it, we're hearing it, everybody's seeing what's going on, and it all makes sense. So there's quite a bit of planning that goes into something that silly. So check it out.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Alright, we'll go for a take here. Here you go.
Very beginning.
Yeah, this is for real.
Yep.
So the final thing that makes that prank so funny is Jim's reaction to it. Now it would be one thing if he heard the first sound effect and went, "What?" and then just kind of sat there and waited for directions, so it would have been just like over like that. But no, not Jim. He decides he's going to try and bear down and play through it, and the harder he tries, the worse it gets for him. And the sound effects just keep going on one after another, taking this hilarious joke and extending it for a minute or two. And so you're not just getting one quick little laugh, but you're getting to laugh over and over and over. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I would call that a 10 in terms of successfully executed pranks. So thank you, Jim. I just love laughing at this. Okay, so Clark has gone on a little break here. I feel today this incredible urge to pull a prank on old Clarky boy. So I have, through my family, secured one whoopee cushion. And I'm gonna just place this on Clark's chair, and when he gets back from his little break, we're gonna have some fun. So, check it out. Okay, Clark's on his way down. Here we go. Am I ready to bounce? Or check out the bounce in the morning? Oh, you okay?
It's this project really. It's got me all bound up inside.
How was lunch?
And here's your mix.
Hey, Clark.
And here's your title track.
Hey, Clark.
Yeah. Alright.
And then finally, once the pranks have been executed, the last order of business is to bring them in together after I've edited the video for them and did all the work, and they get to watch it and we get to see their reactions. So take a look at how they react for the first time to watching the video of their pranks. And what Clark and I are going to do is we're going to insert some sound effects to throw them off and just see what happens. So, here's like.
Why do you keep saying Clark and I?
Because you recorded it.
You were holding the gun to my hand.
So,
I had nothing to
see
do
guys,
with
what should we do? Oh yeah, look.
Oh, we could put a tempo change right after. Well,
Tempo change.
I had almost nothing to do with
2,
it.
3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so it's just like a regular bar game.
We don't want to forget this, Clark.
Oh, nice. I hope this can go on for ages now. It's this project really. It's got me all bound up inside.
How was lunch?
And here's your mix.
Hey, Clark.
And here's your title track.
Hey, Clark.
Alright.
I figured as much. Look at that.
Yeah.
Brothers of the flatulence.
Those guys are good sports. Yes, we have a lot of fun and a lot of laughs together, and that's a big part of working with people, is just having fun and relaxing and just enjoying each other. But there is also a very important purpose to what we're doing in this music. And so let me take you to my interview, and I'll just talk a little bit about that. Take a look.
The effect that this music is having on people. Now, we all know how a prophet is received in his homeland. Biblically speaking, it's one of the interesting conundrums we have, that a prophet can speak wisdom in front of his home and his peers, and it will fall on deaf ears. How is this music being perceived, received, interpreted, and welcomed amongst your peer group, your contemporaries, both musicians and family and friends?
Overall, really well. There's a lot of support. My extended family is really excited, and some of them even enjoy being part of the process in this actual studio. Other musicians, they appreciate, I think, the quality, the technical quality of what's being produced here. A lot of the people in my church, I think they really are seeing or starting to see the spiritual side of it, and that wow, this is really something that possibly God is doing, and it's not just about a local musician trying to get his name out there, but maybe something a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people are going to respond in a real kind of emotional way to the music. I think there's a lot of feeling in what he does, and if it can connect with the right audience, I think people will really enjoy it.
A good friend of mine, Pastor Ted Roberts, used to always say things like, what a wonderful thing it is to be used by God, and he would just kind of encourage people to take the gifts that God has given them and take territory from the enemy and see what God could do in your life and through your life, and to live a life of purpose and run the race well, as Paul says. And so I just decided that that's what I wanted for my life. Set music aside was just to take whatever God has given me and use it to somehow try to connect with people and make a positive difference in the world. There's a lot of negativity around us right now. And not to focus on the negative, but when you live in an environment where things are heavy, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of suffering. There's right now in our economy, we're going through a real economic downturn, and so a lot of people are under so much pressure, people losing their jobs, and that stress after a long period or sustained period of time wears people down. I know it wears me down, and I think that this music is something God has given me that not only ministers to people, but it also ministers to me when I listen to it. And that's how I know it's from God, because it's more than just my music. It's something that it's like God used my hands to create this thing, and now I'm listening to it, and it is blessing me as I listen to it. It's a really interesting dynamic how there's a lot of praise and worship and intimacy happening in the midst of all of this. And my desire and my drive is to use this somehow to make a difference for God. Just plain and simple as that. Let him do what he wants to with it. I don't need fame and fortune. And although there's nothing wrong with money, and if you want to give me $1 million, I'm not going to argue with you. But that's not the main motivation. The main thing is just wanting to know that when I come to the end of my life, that I did everything that I could, and that I lived my life well, and that I left something behind that is good.
Out of all the songs that you've done with Jeremie, do you have any favorites?
Nah, it kind of depends on.
What genre we're into?
Yeah, Jeremie, he'll come in and get me all pumped up with coffee, and then I'm kind of like, I'm more into the rock and roll stuff, Right now I'm probably a little more into one of the ballads, because it's been a long day. We're doing drums today, but it's that's a hard one, because I think anybody knows you don't listen to the same song over and over. You got a song for driving, you got a song for having pizza too, and so it would just depend on what time of day.
So something you experience when you finally come to the end of a huge project that's been in the works for years, and you're finally toward the end, is you start to experience this just tremendous relief. It's just like, finish line, here we come. And so with that comes a sense of lightheartedness, and you just feel giddy almost. And so as usual, here's a little more sparring between me and Clark as we reach the finish line.
Is it running now, or?
It's recording.
Oh, we are recording. There we go. There's here.
Yeah, get a good shot.
Well, you're going to be in it, so I'm not sure how good it's going to turn out. But I think if Harvey balances you out, things will be all right.
There's a lot that happens between laying down the tracks and the different music to what you get as a final piece of music on a CD. Clark is one of the key people involved in that. What sort of giftings and talents have you seen develop and evolve in him through this project?
Well, I think with Clark, one of the neat things I've actually gotten to see, and I've been working with him since January until now, and let's face it, he's bald. And it's taken since January to now, but I've seen 2 hairs grow on his head, and that was amazing growth to watch in him. I just don't know what to say. I don't know if he's out there, but I'm sure I'll pay for it when he sees this, and that's okay. I'm sorry, buddy. I couldn't help myself, So
That was very good.
I love it.
Okay, I'm in the studio here, just finishing up, and we got a power outage. So, right there at the very end, I've only got a few things left to do, and we gotta wait. Always something, isn't it? So this is kind of cool. What happened, Clark? I can't see you.
There, can you see me now? Can you see me now? We were just mixing down in the dungeon today.
This is what can happen when you spend too many hours down here editing. I end up in Clark's dungeon. It's crazy.
Been a little too long in the studio, Jeremy.
Okay,
What's the question?
growth.
Yeah. Growth in Clark. I think every time he works on a project, it expands his experience and his knowledge and his perspective on how to develop music.
I know when we do live performances, when we mic the horns, the mics are always just a little bit out front,
Rather than toward the
rather
bell?
than towards the bell,
Alright.
because the horn, we rely on our sound to hit the back and then go forward
I got you.
instead of it
What
just.
if we want to put you in front of
What if we put him in front of that wall there?
Well, let's see what it sounds like first. So, go ahead and just warm up, and I'm just Can you hear me in there?
Yeah.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, a little better. And the cans are a little bit hot. Might be distracting.
I can do that. Why don't you guys start rehearsing? We'll get the cans on. Why don't you guys figure the part out, and I'll just be running with the mic while you do that. So you got some headphones here. And
Do you have verb on them? Or
yeah, it's up to you. I've got verb in there.
Okay.
And I can kill it if you don't want it.
Okay, let me do that real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see what you're hearing. Go ahead and play the intro. Get just a little more verb. That's better. Good.
I'm gonna run some of the track.
Tell Clark if these are too loud or too quiet for you.
Okay.
Whatever's comfortable for you. He's going to give you a quick level on the cans for what he's comfortable with. Alright, yeah, just up a little bit. He's only using one ear.
All right.
I really think that working on this project with me may have been just another piece in many puzzles that he has solved and that he is going to continue to have to solve as he continues to do this career. So in that sense, I think this is one of the pieces that helps him to continue to develop in his own talent. And yes, he is very, very talented.
I'm just gonna kind of loop that section so it plays over and over, and you just, kind of do whatever you need to get in sync with it, and I'm still just kind of adjusting levels and stuff.
Okay.
So it's, let's see how this works. And actually, maybe a loop is gonna be the way. There's no clicker.
Yeah, it's hard.
You gotta vibe it out. But I know you can do it.
All right.
I'm just gonna let it roll here.
Cool.
I've also found working with Clark that he really is a great partner in creating and editing and mixing music. He knows when to give input, and he also knows when to pull back and defer to the musicians, to the creative artist, to the executive producer. He's a very humble and patient man, and just overall a pleasure to work with. I don't think in all of our time and hours together that he and I have ever had a single argument, not one. And that comes from developing good relationship and from both of us just being tolerant and patient, because we have different views, different ideas, different inspirations, different belief systems, and yet we can maintain unity. It's an interesting thing how love can overcome the multitude of sins. So just enjoy working with the guy.
Right. Well, I got a question, Clark. What do you say we have him do one section and then fade it out, and then we have him do the next section? That'll be the fastest way to get through it instead of trying to play the whole thing through over and over.
Well, then he's got to get into each section. We're trying to figure out the best way to approach this. Just talk amongst yourself.
This would be a good time,
What we could do,
Matthew, to maybe ask him a little bit about himself while we're trying to figure this out.
what I'm thinking is maybe one of these. So does that make sense? Yeah. All right. Well, let's try that. Let's go ahead and get a take, and then we can just evaluate, make sure we get the sound we want and all like that. Okay?
All right, so here's recording, take one.
Here you go.
I can do that, yeah. Where do you want it?
Just feel it out, but mostly on the emphasis notes at the end is probably a good place.
Okay.
And feel free to go ahead and play it however loud you need to.
Okay.
We can reduce the volume.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just whatever is going to be the best for you to be able to get it done.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about trying to hold back.
Okay.
Now you know what you're up against. That's working. That's working though, right? Is the click working for you all right?
Yeah, it's just a different tempo than the first three notes, but.
Yeah, I hear you. Do you know this well enough you can conduct him?
I can. Do you want me to go out there?
Either way, we're gonna see if we can get Jeremy here to conduct y'all.
Do you have a second set of cans out there?
It's on the piano.
Okay.
So I guess he's gonna come out there with you.
Go ahead and play with it. Okay, from the top. Are you ready? Okay. Remember, deep breaths.
Yeah.
Much better. That was pretty good. Yeah. You want to save that one as a possible? Okay. That one's definite possible that we can edit with. All right, ready? Oh, you want to do another take? Yeah, say when.
Another thing that we don't see on the video here, which as a musician I'm quite aware of, is the prep that Clark has to do before I arrive and before the other musicians arrive. He has to make sure the room is clean from the session before, or whoever he was working with before. He's got to set up whatever gear we're going to use, the mics, you know, even down to little details like music stands and chairs, and pretty much prep the whole environment so that when we come in, all of that's ready and we're not doing a whole lot of setup as much as we are recording and editing. So Clark's role is pretty significant in the setup and the teardown of these sessions. And so I think he does a great job with it.
Does things still sound okay in your headphones? You got what you need, apart from the acoustic guitar there. Sorry, say again?
Yeah, that's good.
All right.
Another thing that Clark really excels in is his ability to work with people. I think he understands the psychology behind what we're doing and how people have emotions, and sometimes when you give criticism or correction, or when people are even criticizing themselves, it's important to be positive and to be an encourager to help people arrive at their best performance. And Clark understands that really well. The way that he's worked with all the musicians I brought in and the way he's worked with me. He's just very kind with his words. Except for when he's being snarky and joking around with me, but that's a whole different thing. That's all on purpose, and we both welcome that. But yeah, Clark's a great encourager and a good person to work with.
You know, here's a problem.
What's that?
We haven't fixed the drums, and they're not really in time.
That's not going to hurt him. Yeah, that was good.
No, you're doing great. I was just commenting that we haven't worked on these drums yet, and they're a little out of whack. But maybe they'll be all right in the choruses. But I'm going to mark the chorus here. I'm just going to play a little bit and check out what you're hearing. We're not recording or anything.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, you're hearing mostly bongos, which are pretty locked in. So I think you'll be all right.
Yeah. Okay.
So you want me to run a few choruses and just get a feel? And
What do you want to do, Bill? Do you want to just go right into it, or do you want to do a practice pass?
Yeah, let me rehearse it.
Okay.
you want to pair of headphones so you can hear what he's saying?
Yeah, sure.
So we can channel whatever this is. Balance seeming okay for yourself and the track and everything, or you want less track, more?
I thought I was able to hear it okay.
Okay, good. If you let me know if you need anything changed. It's easy.
Okay.
Yeah, and don't let me distract you.
Okay.
I'm doing my thing.
Alrighty then.
Sounds like pirate speak all for a minute there. Alrighty then.
What was it like working with all the different artists that he brought in? Did you have any favorite artists, or?
Well, it was interesting. I liked just all really nice people, which was a pleasure. That's not always the case. but everybody that came in were just wonderful human beings. I particularly liked working with Jean-Pierre, the piano player.
Is it that second, that pass right where the acoustic guitar comes in, is that, or is there still another 4 or so? In fact, if you can give me the 4 count into where the downbeat of the regular rhythm groove is, that might be cool too.
I thought he was really put a surprising. There's a case of surprise here. See, Jeremie brought in a live musician, and it surprised me. The track that he worked on, he really steered it in a kind of opened up a new window in that tune that I really respond to. He's an excellent piano player. Liked working a lot with the vocalist. Lisa has a beautiful voice, and Harvey.
So let's see. How close is this to your actual height? Not bad. Here's headphones.
Perfect.
Unless you want to just guess.
Okay, use it. Testing 1, 2. Might be about right.
And use it this next Friday.
Ah, that's perfect. That's perfect.
If you need.
Lisa has a beautiful voice, and Harvey. And that particular song, I guess, if you ask about favorite songs, the ones I like the most are the ones that have that extra touch of humanity, where especially the vocal tunes, the piano tune, where there's somebody's actually come in and performed the song, and we've been fortunate enough to capture that. Those are the ones I like.
And so now is the part where we start moving towards the closing part of the music production on the A Light in the Storm album. So let's get to the interviews and see the final comments before we call this an episode.
As we know, regardless of what process we're involved in, be it work, an endeavor, and if God's behind it, at least I have found he usually puts the team together, sometimes despite my efforts. In this process of putting the CD together, we've talked about your musical talents and giftings and what God's given you. What are some of the highlights with the singers and musicians and sound engineer who's involved in this whole process that you've noticed, maybe some unique giftings or talents that God's brought across your path, and B, maybe something amongst that group of people that's been unique to possibly any other music endeavor you've had in the past?
Yeah, well, I could spend all day, and I wish I could spend more time, but unfortunately because of our schedule I've got to cut it a little bit short. But I want to say specifically thank you to Harvey and to Lisa and to Michael and to Ben and Bill and Jean-Pierre and Jim. All of those people are the extra musicians that I brought in on various different songs. Now, most of the songs I did most of the work myself, but that was one of the very special things, was bringing in friends and family and having them be part of this experience. Lisa just has an amazing voice, and so does Harvey, and both of them, their heart for worship and to see people be touched, that's one of the reasons that I chose both of them. Is, well, of course Harvey's my father-in-law, but beyond that, he is a wonderful man of God, and Lisa, she's a wonderful wonderful, worshipful woman of God. We've got Michael, who came in, just bright young man, great musical talent, plays multiple instruments like myself, and I see a little bit of myself in him when I was younger. And so there's a part of my heart that maybe wants to reach out to Michael or people like him a little bit and share some of the things that God's given me and help them to catch a little bit of that inspiration and watch them blossom into what they're supposed to do with their talent in their life. So that's really cool to work with Michael in his youth. Jim, a good friend of mine since we were about 12 years old. We played in a couple different bands together. They were actually heavy metal bands because, we were teenagers growing up trying to find our way, and I used to listen to a lot of hard rock and stuff like that. And we played in bands together, and it was really cool to have him come in. Ben, my brother, we've been playing guitar since we both started at the age of 12. I think he was 13, I was 12. And I gravitated a lot more towards acoustic. He gravitated a lot more towards electric, which is why I like to bring him in to kind of do some dueling with me on the electric guitar. So you'll notice, like on this new CD, there's 2 songs that we play electric guitar together. I believe it's You Are Worthy of My Praise and Before the Throne of God. But then I also allowed him just an 8-measure solo, all on his own, just on Let God Arise, one of the biggest tunes of the album, I think. And it's just fun to have them come in. Bill, my oldest brother, he plays keyboards, he plays piano, and he sings. I might incorporate some of his vocals in future projects. We'll see how this all lays out, and as the tunes come to me, we'll see what parts need to be filled in and who needs to fill them. But it's been always a pleasure working with him. He's got a very gracious heart to give and to serve, and he just blesses me in that way. And he has a little bit of technical training. He has a little bit of training by going to college and learning how to read music, taking a little bit of music theory. And so I view him as an asset in that way, because sometimes there are times when I come into these situations where it would be nice to know how to read music a little bit or understand the theory a little bit more beyond what I'm just hearing in my head with my ears. And that's where Bill sometimes helps me sort things out every now and then. So in that sense, I view him as an asset. All of these are friends. They're blessings in my life. And it's been a privilege working with all of them. I am the one who is blessed. They tell me how blessed they are. But I am the one who is mostly blessed by the fact that they would come and participate with this dream. I can't put into words how thankful I am.
Looking ahead, would there be anything else that you'd saw in this project that you'd like to see continue or further developed in other projects that he takes on?
Well, it's going to be sort of up to Jeremie, I think. But
maybe any insights that you saw that the listeners might want to know about Jeremie?
The listeners might want to know about Jeremie. Well, he loves the double caramel mochas. So if you run into him, you want to, yeah. So we know that much about him. I think some of the stuff that the musicians brought, our drummer today and Jean-Pierre and some of the vocalists, I think some of those things open up the tunes, like I say, in a way that maybe hadn't been visualized. And I think Jeremie, I think they might be giving him some ideas about, I get the impression he's getting some ideas about some places he may want to go in the future with some of this music. I'd like to see him explore some of that, but ultimately he's got to go where his heart takes him, and he doesn't seem to have any real trouble doing that.
So Clark was absolutely right. During the creation of A Light in the Storm, and also during the creation of the Christmas guitar piece album. All along, working with other musicians and working with Clark, working with Scott, all of these things have given me creative ideas. And all I can say is the Clark of 2010 has no idea what's going to hit him when we return to the studio to work on the new stuff. And cannot wait to show you what I've been working on today. So we'll get to that soon, but here are some of the final comments before we move on and close this episode. And I also want to say thank you officially.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thanks for taking this project on. You've done an awesome job. I'm very happy with it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's been a marvelous experience, with the exception of the occasional whoopee cushion and flatulence noises. But yeah, it's been great. It's been great. I'm really enjoying working on this. And last song, man.
Yep.
See if we can get through this and put this puppy to bed.
And we'll go on to the next later on.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate your time today and appreciate your efforts on this and look forward to more.
Well,
Thanks.
my pleasure. Great to be here. Great to be in
Find
here
your
at this
mocha.
point. Yeah, please. Who's your mocha? Thanks.
So that concludes the episode for Clark. We'll be hearing more from him in the future. And so, once again, Clark, I want to say thank you. I absolutely love working with you. And just as much as I enjoyed working with Scott before you. And so, I look forward to what we have on the horizon. And I'm working on album number 3 with you right now, and who knows what's coming in the future, but I hope to do more with you. I plan to. It's my heart to. So we'll see what happens, but thanks for joining me on this journey and just coming along for the ride. I don't think I'd want anyone else in the co-pilot chair right now. So thanks again. God bless you, Clark. Now, I want to tell you what's coming. Okay, so I'm going to read from a list here of what's coming up. Next episode is the season 1 finale, and that will be about the photo shoots to put the album covers together. You're going to get to see some of the people that took the photos for the album covers, as well as helping put the front cover together. And a little neat secret about the front cover that I'll tell you when we get to that episode. So you're also going to hear interviews from my 2 daughters, Raven and Tila. And you're going to get to hear from them what this is all about in their perspective. Then we move to season 2, where we start talking about the new album that I'm working on right now. So it is currently March 2022, and I'm a little over halfway done with all of the music editing. All the songs are recorded. I've got about 6 songs to go before that album is ready. So we're going to be talking about that, and I'm still capturing footage as we speak. So I don't have all the footage yet, but I've got a lot of it, and I've still got more to get. And then you're going to get to meet some musicians that you haven't met before. One of them being a friend of mine named Jan Weston, and some of you might know him in the Portland area as the owner of Weston Buick, GMC, and Kia. And you're also going to hear from another guy I know named Michael Tate. Both Jan and Michael will come in to play bass guitar. You're going to get to meet a guy I know named Georgia Austin, who comes in to sing a lead vocal on a big tune that I wrote called Forever Hallelujah. You're also going to see an old friend of mine named Steve Quick, who's coming in to play drums, or At this point, he already has played the drums and it's recorded. Next week, I'm scheduled to do his video shoot. So you'll get to hear from him. And then returning, you're going to get to see Jean-Pierre again play on a tune. There's going to be a fun facts episode, interesting facts about my music that probably you would have never known before. And then you're going to see the return of Lisa White for female vocal, Bill Heston, my oldest brother, for a baritone part vocal. My second oldest brother, Ben Heston, returns to play electric guitar with me. And then you're also going to get to see my vocal performance. So you've never seen me sing before, well, that's coming. And a surprise female vocalist. That'll be fun to share with you, but you're not actually going to know who that is until that episode comes toward the end of season 2. So that'll be a nice reveal. And of course, there's going to be more funny moments and antics and laughter. So lots of good things to look forward to. And I'm not going to spoil it anymore. We'll just wait till we get to it. So with that, you have a blessed day, and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that episode. Real quick, just want to give you some information. If you're looking for these albums, you can find my music on iTunes or Amazon MP3. There's other websites that are available on, but those are the most prominent. You just go into their search engines, you type in Jeremie Heston. My first name is spelled Jeremie, and my last name is spelled Heston. So type those in the search engines and the album should come up and you can download them. They're not very expensive. Also, if you haven't been able to follow every episode of the video series, both season 1 and season 2 are going to be available on YouTube. And you just simply type in Jeremie Heston, My Journey Making Music. And then of course, whatever episode number you're looking for. So for example, Jeremie Heston, My Journey Making Music, episode 1. Type that in and you'll be able to find all of the episodes. Season 1 has 22 episodes, and season 2 I think is going to have 10 or 12 episodes. I'm not sure at this point, but I'll put a little video at the end of those episodes when I get to that. So anyway, thanks again for watching. Thank you for your support, and God bless you.